Jack, can I come and record a podcast? Please? Oh, sorry, buddy. Oh, I'm sorry. Good boy. Good boy. Hello and welcome, a very warm welcome back to the Green Bean. My name is Katie, this precious little friend is Jack, and you are hanging out with us in my studio in the Brecon Beacons in South Wales. In these videos I document my creative processes, which include everything from drawing and painting to knitting, crochet, spinning, sewing, all sorts, and take you out on some of our beautiful walks around here in the mountains. This episode has got knitting, it's got crochet, and it's got some chat about my painting, a bit of progress on the painting I was sharing with you in the last episode. I've also got a brief update on my spinning and stitching towards the end of the episode. So settle in with a drink and a project of your own, and I hope you enjoy spending some time with us. In the last episode, I showed you the beginning of this painting, which was based on a note I found scribbled by the side of my bed, which simply said, "Dapper frog in dungarees goes foraging for mushrooms." And I blithely said in that episode that I would show you the finishing of this painting next time. And as always with these videos, my interest is in documenting my creative process as it happens, being real, being honest, and not trying to fabricate something that is an unfair, inaccurate representation of my creative life. So when things go wrong or don't go as expected, I try to share that with you. And this idea I had that I would finish this painting next time I saw you is one of those examples. I actually had an attack of the doubts about my painting. Not that I'm displeased with how it's going, but I actually preferred the initial iPad sketch that I made, which took me all of 5 minutes and was only intended for planning out the colour palette. I found that with this big painting that I'm making, I don't know, something about adding more detail or all of the textures into it, it lost the immediacy. And I know I talked a lot in the last episode about trying to keep the immediacy of my quick sketch, but Nonetheless, something has been lost in this big painting, so I doubted myself and I started over again with a completely different version of this frog painting. At this point, I think it's too early to say whether the new frog painting or the original attempt at the frog painting is going to be the one that I go ahead with. And of course it might be that I end up hating both of them and trashing them and starting over again or giving up entirely. But this is very much the meandering process that I take. It's quite rare for me to just sit down, start doing a thing, do it from beginning to end and call it finished. There are often doubts and changes of direction along the way. And yeah, I just don't want to erase that from my process for this video documentation. I want to be honest with you about when that happens. I think it's often easy to see someone who's working as a quote-unquote professional artist, although I'm not ever sure I see myself that way, to imagine that this making marks on paper, translating my ideas into images is easy, and that I've somehow reached a point of confidence in my work that I can just sit down and translate my ideas into illustrations. And I want to express that it's not like that. Sometimes it is, but actually that's quite rare, and more often my experience is one of trial and error and many more mistakes than you ever see on the internet. I think people only tend to show the sides of their life and their work that they're most pleased with. And, you know, it's hard and uncomfortable for me to show you even things like a 5-minute sketch from my iPad or my rough sketches. I feel uncomfortable sharing those more vulnerable stages with my work rather than the finished pieces that I'm happy with. But for the purposes of these videos, which is documenting my creative process as honestly as I can, it's important that I show you when things go wrong or when things don't quite turn out as I expected. Sometimes I find it hard to know what to say about a project when it's a project that I've been working on for many months and shown you many times before. I often feel there's a pressure to finish things, a pressure to always be working on something new. And even though I know that in reality, we as crafters all know that projects take a long time and we don't necessarily start a project thinking we're going to have a new thing immediately. We know that these projects are an investment of our time and our love and are going to be with us for a while. But nonetheless, putting my creative projects out into the world like this, I do feel sometimes like, oh, aren't people going to be bored of hearing about this jumper? Well, I'm not bored of working on it, so hopefully you're not bored of hearing about it. If you haven't seen it before, this is my Nightingale jumper by Norah Gaughan, which is a pattern originally published in Pom Pom Quarterly magazine, the issue that she edited. And I've wanted to knit it ever since I saw it in that magazine. And I'm knitting my version in a yarn called Mithril, which is from New Zealand. It is the ultimate Lord of the Rings nerds yarn. It's the very fibre that they used to weave the cloaks for the characters in the Lord of the Rings movies. So when I discovered this yarn existed and was something I could purchase as a fan of Lord of the Rings, I was very excited. And the combination of the yarn with Norah's pattern, which I found very evocative of Lord of the Rings, is making a really perfect combination. I have been plodding away on this project extremely slowly, and although it's true to say I'm not bored of it, I am in some ways frustrated that I haven't finished it yet. I've got a back piece and 2 sleeves already knitted. What I'm working on now is just the front piece. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be taking any longer, except perhaps I need to accept that I don't really enjoy the process of knitting cables. I love to wear single colour garments, particularly textured single colour garments, and I think testament to that is this jumper that I'm wearing, which I'm pretty sure you've seen me wear in every episode that I've recorded recently. It is an absolute favourite. It's my Caledonia by Sylvia Watts-Cherry, and it's got this gorgeous cabled detail on the arm and moss stitch on the rest of the body. It's green, but it's also grey, so it's kind of neutral. It goes with everything. It's an absolute staple jumper. And the reason I'm knitting another grey cabled jumper is because I know it's a garment that I'm going to get loads of wear out of. But the reality is I don't really find the process of knitting that exciting. I think when you're knitting cables, the rows are slow and meticulous, so they take a long time and you don't necessarily see the growth very quickly, whereas when you're working in stockinette, whether it's plain stockinette or stranded colourwork, the knitting seems to grow much more quickly, and that seems to be a strong motivator for me to pick projects up, is to see tangible progress. So yeah, it's true to say I'm not bored with it, but also I am frustrated with my slow pace, and I'm still trying to put in a row or 2 here and there whenever I can. I think since you last saw it, I've knitted the whole of this ball of yarn, so that's 50 grams. That's fairly good going, and if I keep going like that, I will have a jumper eventually. However, much as I am trying to embrace and respect my slow process with my Mithril jumper, I recognise as a knitter that there is a need for a quick win every now and then, and my tiny frog toy that I finished in the last episode was one of those quick wins. But what do you do if you need a quick win of a project but you don't want to cast on yet another new thing? Well, for me, a reliable source of potential quick wins in knitting is my never-ending pile of unfinished works in progress. So I had a dig around in that box to see what I could find for inspiration, and I came across this, which is a version of my design, the Beetle Magic jumper, which was initially intended to be a sample. I was knitting it for my friend Will, who was going to model it for me, but we ran into a dye lot problem. I basically ran out of yarn, and RiverKnits did not have any more in the same dye lot. The new dye lot was too much of a mismatch to be usable to finish the jumper. So what do you do in that situation? You have a tantrum, fold the jumper up, and put it in your hibernating projects box. However, it seems like before I put it away, I did come up with a solution. I had left the sleeves unknitted. I finished the body, and it's very long in the body, because it was for Will and not for me. I think I'm going to reclaim this jumper for myself. But I had started to knit some ribbing, just where I'd separated for the sleeves and the body. Instead of knitting a sleeve, I've just straight away picked up the number of stitches and started knitting ribbing to turn it into basically a t-shirt. And I know a lot of people don't understand why you would want a knitted t-shirt. If you're wearing short sleeves, why are you wearing wool? I am a cold person and I will wear wool all year round. I'll also layer this with long sleeved tops underneath. So it seems like a perfect quick win of a project for me to finish knitting the ribbing on these sleeves. Won't take very long. I've already started. And the exciting thing about it is that it will give me essentially the excitement of a new garment that I can wear for Unravel Festival, which is coming up this weekend. I've never vended at Unravel Festival before. I've visited as a guest, but I've got my stand there for the first time this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be next to Becky and Marcus of RiverKnits, whose gorgeous yarn I used for this design. So it will be really nice to be able to display, as well as display the sample garment that I did photograph, to have a new sample of my Beetle Magic design that I can show off at the festival. So I just need to finish those ribbings, and there's one other task that I'm going to have to face, which is shortening the body. It probably needs to lose about 2 or 3 inches. I think as a t-shirt I would like it to be fairly cropped so I can wear it over a dress. It's going to strike fear into your hearts probably, but I am going to cut this ribbing off, unravel it, and then graft the body to the ribbing with a bit of Kitchener stitch. If you've been watching this podcast for a while, you all know that I hate Kitchener stitch with a passion, so going all the way around this hem is not going to be a fun task, but I'm going to steel myself because it is just that task and finishing off these sleeves between having me now and having a new finished garment to wear for the show. So unpleasant as it's going to be, I'm going to crack on with it and have a new Beetle Magic sample to wear very soon. So I've got a rare crochet project on the go at the moment, although you have seen a crochet project from me recently. I'm also working on an Eskrick shawl, but that's temporarily hibernating while I work on this, which is a gift for a very dear friend. I had to go through a formal complaint process recently, which involved presenting my case at a hearing, and this friend supported me through that entire process, and I wanted to give them a gift to say thank you, because it was an extremely generous thing that they did, and I really, felt that they were there for me, and it was lovely. So I wanted to make this thank you gift. They had previously sent me a message with a picture of this crochet cowl, asking if I could teach them how to make it, which I could, but I thought I would surprise them by making the cowl for them, just because that would be a little bit quicker than teaching them how to do it for themselves. So the pattern is the Leah cowl by Knotsosquare Crochet, and it's a very straightforward, starts with a triangular shape to make this kind of bandana point at the bottom, and then you join to work in the round. So I'll pop it over my head and show you. It becomes this cool cowl shape. If you are like me, looking at all these ends to weave in, yes, I am dreading that job. And I will say I'm not exactly enjoying the crochet process either. It's treble crochets. I think you call them something else if you're in the US, but lots and lots and lots of treble crochets. The pattern is really well written. I'm enjoying it from that point of view, but the process is a little bit boring for me, and yeah, all of these ends is... I'm trying not to think about it until the project is finished. The yarn I'm using is... it's a superwash yarn. It needed to be superwash because my friend has skin sensitivities, so it needed to be superwash for softness, but also they've never had a hand knit or crocheted garment to care for before, and I want them to be able to put it in the washing machine. So I asked my friends for suggestions of a nice soft superwash yarn that I could use that would also come in the right kind of colour palette. My friend is trans, so I wanted to pick colours that alluded to the trans flag but were not in your face about it. And my friend Ella suggested Socks Yeah by Rachel Coopy, which comes in a 4-ply for socks, and also in a DK, although I guess you can knit DK socks with it too. I didn't realise it came in a DK, which is what this pattern asked for. The colour palette was perfect, and apart from the fact that it's superwash and a little bit slippery, I'm finding it actually really nice to work with. Again, with those ends to weave in, it's going to be a little bit hard work. I think because I'm so often using non-superwash and woolen spun yarns, I don't have to pay very much attention to my ends. I just weave them in a little bit, and over time they felt in. That's not going to be the case with this project because superwash doesn't have that grippy, woolly factor. So I will need to do a careful and proper job of weaving the ends in. But that's a job for the future. I've got another repeat of this colour block to do before then, and then there will be a block of ribbing at the top and then a little contrast picot border all the way around the edge. The good thing is I will have to deal with the ends before I do that border, so I think that will make sure I finish the project. If I had to do that picot border and then weave in the ends, I might just end up leaving the ends and never finishing it. So at least that border is going to force me to weave in all those ends. Before I round out this episode, I'll give you a brief update on my other craft projects. I'm still spinning almost every day, and I'm slowly working my way through my first garment spin. I'm now onto the third bobbin of 3 of this special edition barn owl fibre from John Arbon Textiles. My second bobbin went a little bit astray. I somehow changed the settings on my e-spinner, and the twist in the singles doesn't quite match that of the first bobbin. I've managed to get a little bit more close of a match on the third bobbin, so I might pass the second bobbin through the spinner again just to add a tiny bit more twist, but to be honest, I think it'll probably be fine by the time it's plied, and it's my very first garment spin, so I'm trying to resist perfectionism too much on that project. I'm also still working away on my cross stitch, which I showed you in the last episode. Not a huge amount of progress since you last saw it, but again, I'm enjoying putting in a couple of stitches each day and seeing this image come to life. It's really nice to have a different craft on hand, something that frankly doesn't have anything to do with work for me. I know that knitting, spinning less so, but knitting is quite often tied up with my work as a designer, so to do something that is just purely and simply for the joy of it is really nice, especially because I don't really have access to be garment sewing at the moment with our house in the state that it is. Cross-stitching is somewhat attending to my desire to be sewing, and I'm really grateful for it. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Green Bean. I'm so grateful you're here and you choose to spend time hanging out with me and Jack here in the Welsh Mountains. These videos are entirely made possible by our community on Patreon. If you're one of the lovely folks who supports me and my work over there, thank you for your generous contribution and for the faith and trust that you show in me and my creative work. I'm so grateful for you. And if you're willing and able and enjoy the videos and would like to access more of them, please consider joining us over there. I offer early access and ad-free access as well as extra videos to folks over on Patreon. And if Patreon isn't your thing, but you would like to financially support, I've also got a link to buy me a cup of tea down below and to my online shop as well. That's all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Will McNicol, whose beautiful music lends atmosphere to these episodes. And thank you for watching. I will see you soon. Bye.